ULB Renewed. A game that people are really indecisive on. Some people saying it's great and better than the original, and some people who think it's a downgrade to the old one. The game got so much attention, in fact, that Merg played it, and I'm sure he needs no introduction. But even with all this popularity, why is this game seen as inferior to the original? Well, that's what I aim to find out in this video. And before we begin, thank you to Sil Gaming, who greatly helped this video with the in-depth review she gave me, so I could get a better understanding of what the pros think of this game. Alright, let's begin. I'm sure you are all familiar with the original Undertale Last Breath, and I don't need to explain anything about it. But the general consensus on that game is that it's a well-made, unique and overall cool Fangame. There was only one problem: it was getting old, and people were starting to see the cracks in the Fangame. Buggy hitboxes, recycled attacks, and new problems that the developer was plainly ignoring. Despite all of that though, the game was still beloved and cherished by many. So when the announcement that a new Undertale Last Breath remake game was being worked on, people were hyped. This means people were holding it to the standards of the original, which were pretty big boots to fill. And as you can tell from this video, it didn't do a great job. But why? Well, let's start off with the very beginning of the game, before phase 1 even happens. The game opens up with a less than stellar opening cutscene, and no, I am not calling this a gameplay segment. This is pretty much just a glorified cutscene, and a boring, monotonous one at that. On Merg's video, 12 minutes of his 40-minute video was just the cutscene. And the cutscene alone, meaning roughly a fourth of the video, was just a long cutscene.
At first, I used my powers for good. I became friends with everyone, for a while.
I think that speaks for itself. Moving on to phase 1, already I can notice a problem. Can you guess what it is? Yeah, the sprites are the exact same as the original. No changes. Now I know some of you are going to say, but one car. The old sprites are part of the style the game is going for. And to that I say, if your style is laziness, then it's not a style. It's just, well, for lack of a better word, lazy. Disregarding the visuals, I think the music in this phase is really good. Ultimatum has a banger start, making you feel nostalgia as you hear the classic. Well, you would be able to feel nostalgic if your ears weren't already gone with how loud this theme is. Sadly, that's all the good things I have to say about this phase. Now I have to go back to the bad stuff. Firstly, this phase reuses attacks a lot. The Forbidden Trail attack being used twice. Also, side note on said attack, the effects on this attack do damage for some godforsaken reason. Just goes to show how this phase was overlooked by the developers in favor for the more popular ones. This theme of not play testing is very prevalent in this and the final fight of this Fangame, but we will get there when we get there. This fight is mostly about memory, which, I personally think you should at least have a small amount of time to react to attacks instead of being forced to memorize them, but whatever. The inclusion of the RNG in this phase isn't as bad as it is in other phases, but it's still an issue. Take this attack for instance. I'll just let Sil explain this one.
Why are the blue bones so close on the highest jumps? I cannot dodge them that way!
Thankfully a no-hit run was completed on this phase by Sil and a few others, which means it isn't completely impossible, but it's still an issue. The inclusion of the Hotland lasers as a replacement for Son's pulling A. I haven't used this since the Hine era. In the original is a cool way to implement orange attacks. Sadly this game has no idea how to work orange lasers, or blow lasers for that matter, into attacks, leaving them to be used for about 3 attacks and then being forgotten about for the rest of the Fangame. Seriously, these things never show up again after phase 1. And thank God for that, since these things make phase 1 so much worse. And as a final cherry on top to all of this, phase 1 is buggy, very buggy, to the point where multiple no-hit runs were lost due to poor hitboxes and lack of testing.
Dude, this is it. This is it. What? Dude, that's a no-hit. Nothing hit me there.
Cracked Wolf, the developer of ULB Renewed, did say they would fix it, but they never did, and probably never will. That's all I really have to say on Phase 1. Overall, not a very good start, but still, the game is still finding its footing. I'm sure Phase 2 will blow Phase 1 out of the water. Phase 2. I'm sure you are all very familiar with how hated this phase is among the community. I could go on and dissect each attack, but instead I'm just going to go over the main problems. First of all, the difficulty switch. This phase is so much harder than Phase 1 it feels like a kick in the face. Heck, the first attack utilizes two new mechanics that you have to get used to: screen flipping and slashes. If you're not familiar with screen flipping or constant gravity switching, well, good luck, because there is no way you're beating this phase this year. As I'm sure you all know by now, Merg decided to play ULB Renewed, and has made 7 videos on the game. You want to know how many videos it took him to beat Phase 2? 5 videos. Surprisingly, he didn't rage quit, but it was definitely the angriest we as viewers have seen him in a while. And Merg's videos are a perfect point to look at when reviewing Phase 2, as he made it abundantly clear how much he hates this phase.
It's not normal gravity. Bro, you're actually serious. You're actually serious. You're actually serious. No, why? Dude, it's so stupid. So stupid. I'm dumb. Dude, okay. Why, dude? And then I gravity switched sand stands, because there's a million sand stands in this freaking Fangame.
Completely unsight readable attacks, over-reliance on memory, constant use of RNG to artificially increase an attack's difficulty, the length of each attack being about double of Phase 1's standard attacks. I could go on and on, but we would be here all day. But the main problem with this phase is that, for some godforsaken reason, your items and HP are restored when entering Phase 2, which means you have to beat Phase 1 essentially no heal to have a chance at beating Phase 2. I don't think I need to explain how stupid this decision was, and sure, you could argue the prey mechanic does make it easier, but it's essentially just a single heal. At least it's there though. Thankfully, the sprite art here is really nice. The animations feel fluent and go together really well. The use of bone slashes and bone daggers are a welcome addition, and do make this fight a lot more interesting, but god, the slashes get so repetitive. Also, this phase is very long. Too long. The whole gathering fight buttons thing would be cool if it wasn't only a third of the whole goddamn phase. Not to mention, when the game first came out, Phase 2 didn't even have a checkpoint. That, combined with the trial and error style of attacks, was, well, really stupid. Touching up onto the whole attack issue once more, I just want to take an entire segment on this attack. Every time I see this attack come up in someone's Let's Play video, or one of my friends' streams, they always get hit by it, and I'm not even going to say it's a memory part. This attack actively messes with what you know and flips it on its head. Which would be cool, you know, if it was done in any way other than this. There is no way the game signifies that this isn't a bone jump. So you have to memorize what attack it's on, and then you mess up anyway because it messes with your muscle memory. This is psychological warfare. Okay, sorry about the rant, but that attack just proves that the dev just wants to screw you over more than anything. Not to mention that this phase was originally joined with Phase 1 when it came out, and had no checkpoint whatsoever. And the only reason a checkpoint was added was because Cracked Wolf was scared Merg would quit the game, so added it in after his video. In short, this phase is a massive difficulty spike from phase 1, and has the same problems as phase 1 but cranked up to 11. But hey, at least the music goes hard. Anyway, hopefully phase 3 can at least make this game playable. First off, I just want to say that the visuals on this fight are amazing. Everything is fluent and looks amazing. The music in this fight is also great. Overall, I think visual wise, this is a massive improvement over the original Last Breath, and I think we can all agree on that front. And that's pretty much where my compliments for this phase end. While it's definitely better than phase 2, it still has its issues. The main issue is the opening cutscene. Now it's cool, don't get me wrong. But the thing is, you cannot skip the cutscene. So every time you die to a new attack, you have to watch the minute-long cutscene. And oh boy does it get repetitive. Not to mention that the fight is over 5 minutes long, not including the walk up to Gaster. Another issue is that, unlike in the original LB, you don't get heals in this fight, which isn't that bad on its own. But the fact that the fight is 5 minutes long and mostly based on memory, means learning it becomes tedious, as every time you make a mistake you have to wait a minute to watch the cutscene and then you finally get a second try. This phase is also buggy, so buggy in fact that a user named Salty Lily had a bug where they were only level 15, not 19, making the fight even harder. This phase also has an absurd amount of RNG, being mostly based on luck. Cracked Wolf did state that there were tricks to overcome the RNG. Sadly, this was disproven by top players, and finding a way to cheese a luck lock just wasn't possible. As you can tell, a lot of these factors made top players like Sil not even attempt to try a no-hit of phase 3. Throughout the fight, the issue from phase 1 comes back, the whole effects issue. Trails seem to still damage you even when they're invisible. It's seen in the forbidden platform attack in phase 1, and in this phase with the planes. What makes it even worse is that there are no hit achievements, but not any no heal achievements for any phase. Why add a no hit achievement when the only way to no hit is to get good RNG? Besides that, the fight overall kinda just drags on, and starts using attacks like bone sliders and random blasters. Overall, phase 3 is definitely a step up from phase 2 and 1, but is still dragged down by the lack of a cutscene skip. Let's hope Asgore and Flowey can at least give us something to praise. The final fight of ULB renewed, and arguably the worst when it comes to attack design. While phase 1 had the issue of the developer being lazy and relying too much on memory, phase 2 had the issue of, well, everything. And phase 3 had an unskippable, minute-long cutscene. This phase is reliant so hard on RNG that sometimes it is impossible to dodge an attack if you get bad RNG. Take this attack for example, a common no-hit run ender. This attack's two main factors both rely on RNG, the slashes and the pellets. And if you get the blue slash when you're trying to dodge a pellet, well, you're forced to take damage. And there's nothing you can do about it. Funny thing is, this phase heavily varies in how good the attacks are. This attack is really well done, has no RNG put into it, and tests how precise you can move your soul. This attack just throws everything at the wall until something sticks. And guess what? Nothing sticks. It's all poorly done. Thankfully, at least the fight is more than just some bone jumps and blasters, and instead has slashes, pellets and fire, making it slightly more interesting. The sprite art looks really weird here. It's good for what it is, but I just find it goofy looking. Look at how they massacred my boy. The fight button thing is reused again, but done worse, and you just have to lack to break free instead of collecting pieces like in phase 2. And you wanna know the best part? There is literally no incentive to beating this, as I mentioned earlier. This game has achievements, yet beating chapter 2 does not give any achievements, not even for no hitting it or anything. Making beating this fight a full waste of your time. Other than seeing the credits. The music on this fight is okay, but is a big step down from the last straw or an interesting reunion. I'm glad they at least included this, but god was it done poorly. Hey, yeah, I have little character stills now. Thank you to my friend Cap for making these absolute masterpieces. You've probably seen his art, it's one of the first things you see when you search up Icebound. Anyway, back to the topic at hand. ULB Renewed was probably one of the biggest bombings this community has seen in a while. It was backed by loads of people hyping it up only for it to turn out a buggy mess with awful attack design and less than stellar ideas. Not to mention how poorly optimized and laggy it is. The only reason this game got an update was because of Merc. If he hadn't have played it, we'd still be in the unbalanced mess that, oh wait, it still is an unbalanced buggy mess. Jokes aside, this game can still be redeemed. It's only just a few updates away. So, in short, ULB Renewed is a less than stellar attempt at rebooting a beloved and iconic Fangame. A good game is a game which listens to its community. And in this case, that didn't happen. And never will. Saints Cracked Wolf stated ULB Renewed will be getting no updates for the foreseeable future. Thank you all for staying if you made it this far, and it would be greatly appreciated if you subscribed for more in-depth looks at Fangames like this. See you next year.